Hey, so amazing. You see how they playing? LiveWire, it's all about sports and entertainment. You don't wanna miss it, so official like you never seen. Keep it going till the whistle blowing from the referee. Everything from highlights and stats, you know that we gotta run it back. Whether on the field or the court, you know that this is where it's at. Subscribe, no delaying. This is LiveWire, sports and entertainment. Let's go.
What's good, Washington Commanders fans? All right. Yesterday there was a report that came out about Washington was looking into Andrew Luck in the 2022 season. Now Andrew Luck was retired in 2019. Now Jim Irsay came out yesterday, made claim that if any team or teams that was looking into Andrew Luck, contacted Andrew Luck, or contacted any representative of Andrew Luck, such as his agent or outside connections, then he will go to the league and request tampering charges. Now, we do know how the NFL illegal tampering process is, that, you know, any team that's under contract with the team, you can't directly contact that player, you cannot contact his agent, or any persons related to the situation. You have to directly contact the team itself and inquire about him. Now, has this hold true to Washington? We don't know. We know how desperate Washington was for the last 2 seasons looking for a quarterback. They went out for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then they end up chasing down Andrew Luck when Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, supposedly at the time, nobody wanted. There was a report that they was trying to chase after Matthew Stafford, but at the same time, none of these quarterbacks wanted to come there. Why? Because of the influx situation that was going on with the Washington Commanders and the ownership with Daniel Snyder. Now, would Andrew Luck have wanted to come here? I don't think so. I mean, knowing the situation and everything like that. Now, on top of everything else, Jim Irsay is looking to push the issue even further by having the league getting involved. So I feel at this point that there could be some truth to it, and then they couldn't. But we already know how that goes down the wire. Even if you look into the NBA, a few years ago, where the Miami Heat, you know, went after Kyle Lowry, and the NBA had investigated. The Chicago Bulls went after Lonzo Ball, and it cost them. You know what I'm saying? Cost them a draft pick. Then you look at in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, what happened to them? They paid a price for it. They lost a first-round pick. Now, I was watching Locked On Washington, and a pretty interesting thing that they came up said that if a team if a team decides to do illegal tampering and then lose a first-round pick, the team that they contacted should get that first-round pick. I mean, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. But the team pretty much doesn't get that pick. The pick just goes away. Now, is that ideally? Yeah, because then you don't benefit the other team either. You know what I'm saying? Where the team has a first-round pick and it could get, you know, better players or whatever the case might be, but there is validity to the situation where you have to go by the rules. And knowing that everything that the Washington Commanders has been going through, why Ron Rivera and the front office continue to make these boneheaded, blundering mistakes, it just behooves me knowing that if this came to light. So I'm gonna read some stuff that's pretty. Now, John Klein from ESPN and the Klein Report, and you can follow John Klein on Twitter and on YouTube as well. He wrote down saying that on May 19th, 2022, Joe Gibbs did a film study analytics that led Washington to Carson Wentz. Now, I remember back then that Joe Gibbs had a conversation with Ron Rivera about the type of style of quarterback and how he was able to pick quarterbacks during his Super Bowl tenure. We had Joe Theismann, Mark Rippon, and Doug Williams. You know what I'm saying? So, and none of them was like top tier quarterbacks. Joe Theismann probably was the most recognized quarterback of all of the Super Bowl but he was able to get the most out of these quarterbacks to be able to win Super Bowls. Doug Williams was with Tampa Bay, kind of like, he had a strong arm. He wasn't able to do certain things that he needed to do and all of that stuff like that. So I feel that at this point that he kind of like helped Ron Rivera. But nevertheless, it's kind of like trying to figure out why Washington would contact Andrew Luck. Now, Andrew Luck hasn't played since 2019. You know what I'm saying? And he was 29 years old at the time. Right now he's right about 34 years old. He would have been like 32 at that time, 33, somewhere around there. Could he still play? Yeah, with the time off, his body healed. I think one of the reasons why he stepped away because he was injured. The Colts didn't put an offensive line around him. He was taking hits. He was getting battered and everything like that. And he was one of the top guys in the league at the time. Him and RG3 was 1-2 in the draft. But to say less is that Andrew Luck and his career was a little bit better than RG3's. Because RG3 got injured. But then you see the toll that it started taking on Andrew Luck. If I were Andrew Luck, I probably would have got out of Indianapolis a little bit sooner instead of allowing his body just to get beat up as much as it did. But the Colts didn't do anything for him. They shipped Peyton Manning out because Peyton Manning was down on his downside of career with injuries. Then they usher in Andrew Luck. They gave Andrew Luck the keys to everything, but they didn't provide him with no protection. And the dude was getting battered. He was a big guy, was a pretty stout guy. Ran out the pocket a lot. Had a great arm, but they just couldn't protect him. So now with this, this report actually surfaced last year. So Jim Irsay and the Colts have demand investigation, and it will be very interesting to see what happens or what doesn't happen. Now, is Jim Irsay pushing this because he knows that, okay, Daniel Snyder's still there, or we could just take another blow at the Washington Commanders before new ownership takes in and cost them, don't want to see no success for them as new ownership was to take over for next year or this year or whatever the case may be, just hand them a blow to Daniel Snyder? Could be. You know what I'm saying? Could be. So, but who knows? Now, Stephen Haller of ESPN said that the Indianapolis Colts have requested NFL officials to look into the possibility of improper contact between the Washington Commanders and the longtime retired Colts Andrew Luck. A lead source told ESPN on Monday, confirming the report from the Washington Post. Again, the Washington Post. Luck is a four-time Pro Bowler, retired in 2019, played 3 seasons, has 3 seasons remaining on his contract. The contract trolls after his departure, meaning that if he was to resume an NFL career, he will remain under the contract of the Indianapolis coach, and an improper contact by any club could constitute in violation of the NFL's anti-tampering policy. So, a source told ESPN on Sunday that the Colts were considering pursuing the matter after ESPN reported it Saturday that Washington, during the team's broad search for a quarterback in 2022, made attempts to learn whether Luck had any interest in returning to the NFL. A Commander source told ESPN John Klein on Monday that the team considered Luck among many other quarterbacks, but moved on because it figured he would stay retired, so it didn't go any further, which I expected. The Commanders are not believed to have spoken with Andrew Luck or nor his agent, which would be direct violation of the league anti-tampering policy. Whether the Commanders spoke to a third party or whether any such actions constitute a violation are among the details that the coach are hoping to clarify, and they seek to learn more about what exactly transpired. And the coach source told ESPN on Sunday. Now the NFL anti-tampering policy is somewhat kind of vague a little bit, and any direct contact with the player is not required. Well, we all know that. We know any contact you deal with the player or whatever the case may be is not prohibited. But knowing that when you have when you have an organization down and going through a lot of changes, why not continue to kick dirt on them? Why not continue to humiliate them? Because guess what? All right, if Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew did this, then their job should be in jeopardy, especially with new ownership coming in. Because the fact of the matter is, why would you want this kind of idiotic management under new ownership? Now, we already dealt with Ron Rivera last year for not saying that he not knowing that we needed to make the playoffs. Then we look at this year's draft that could have potentially gave us a great player at number 16 instead of the one that we decided to pick because of feelings. Then last year in the draft, we could have got more. We could have did better in draft capital, but we didn't do that. Then after last year's draft, we could have made the playoffs, but Ron Rivera said, "Oh, we didn't know we need to make playoffs." Then you have Martin Mayhew after the draft this year saying, "Oh, we should have been more aggressive." So if this holds true, say if it holds true, and I don't believe it's much, because I'll go into a little detail after that. If this holds true and we lose a first round pick next year, and say that we don't perform well and we don't have a first round pick and we have to wait to the second round pick, this will be very ugly for Ron Rivera and his management team. They will definitely get wiped out, because now new ownership will come in and really evaluate the incompetence of this front office, because lo and behold, Ron Rivera is the sole decision maker, along with Martin Mayhew and them in the front office. And so therefore, me personally, I wouldn't even allow Ron Rivera to step foot on here another year if this was to happen. If this was to happen, you had to fire them, because you need people in there that know better. You know what I'm saying? Now, yeah, Ron Rivera did made it known for the last 2 years they was in the market for a quarterback. They publicly announced this. You know what I'm saying? You went after Ryan Fitzpatrick, which was a disaster. Then you turn around and get Carson Wentz, was another disaster. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, could it be some truth to this? Yeah, it could be some truth that they inquired about him. Now, what would have saved them if they did? You could have called the Colts, talked to Jim Irsay. He said, nah. But if you did do this, instead of allowing Jim Irsay to get the league involved, I will be on. I will be on the phone with the Colts trying to work out a swap of third round deals and add a fifth in there. Because you don't know what's going to happen to your team going into the 2024, going into the season. You know what I'm saying? Going to the season, you don't know what's going to happen to your team. I mean, we could not get the wins that we spoke, and then we might end up with a first round pick. And then if you lose that first round pick and you was picking that 7th, then you lose, say you pick in the top 10 and you lose that pick, then now you can't make no moves to acquire more picks, you know, through the draft to build up. And as it stated now, a report said that the Washington Commanders going into 2024 doesn't have any compensatory picks because of Taylor Heineke got signed, Cole Holcomb, and then we end up replacing these players. So there was no way out to get picks. You know what I'm saying? I think the 49ers next year has 5. That's crazy. So next year if we losing picks and we only getting like say 6 or 5 picks, we not gonna be able to make no kind of moves. We will have to make trades to garner picks. And so that just put us more of in a fluctuating situation dealing with this. Now also on top of this report, Andrew Luck and his representative deny that Washington contacted them of any sorts. You know what I'm saying? That there was no direct contact with the Luck camp. So now we got to figure out who was lying. You know what I'm saying? So Mark Messier and Nikki Javala of the Washington Post reported that the source within Luck's camp said that the Commanders have not contacted Luck, his father, or his uncle, who were his agents during the time he was playing. So therefore, when he was playing, they was his agents. So therefore, if they have knowledge now, do this mean that Washington still went around a third party? Could be. Luck surprisingly, you know, I read all of that, you know, through it. He was, like I say, he was 29 at the time, you know, dealing with injuries. So who knows? While the Commanders may not have contacted Luck or his camp directly, Nikki Javala and Mark Messier noted that the Colts want the NFL to determine whether there are improper contact to determine if there was any anti-tampering going on. So we don't know. We don't know. But also on Lockdown Kings, they did say that JP Finley said that there could be no smoke, there could be nothing at all, or whatever the case might be. So we honestly will have to wait and see. But it's going to be really interesting if this happened to Washington and Ron Rivera did this, man. It's going to be time for them to go. I'm not going to give Ron Rivera them any more passes. I don't care what kind of, you know, man or what he is. It comes to football IQ and football responsibility. You can't make these kind of moves and cost your team picks because you so desperately wanted a quarterback. All you had to do is just draft one. If you really wanted a quarterback, like you did, you draft Sam Howell in the 5th round. Why you could not just why you cannot just did that a couple of years ago? Draft a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Instead of seeking out a free agent quarterback that calls us picks and then going behind looking for a guy and then putting us in a situation that there could be illegal tampering where we lose a 1st round pick. You know what I'm saying? The only way if this comes, then Washington will have to win games. Washington will have to be down like in the late 20s, close to the 30s to really make sure that pick really don't count. I mean, that's the only way. If we draft in the top 20, in the top 15, or the top 10, and that pick we lose that pick, that's gonna be bad. Like I said, because we can't use that pick to maneuver anything. And we probably won't even get number 6 or 7 picks next year. And especially we don't have no compensatory picks for next year. It's going to put Washington in a flux. And this is going to fall back on Ron Rivera and their decision making. And we already seen they don't make the best decisions. They do things on feelings. They don't do what it is called football genius things. You know, they feel like, okay, this guy could help us, but instead of get the guy that the person that can make an impact for the team. You know what I'm saying? The more impactful players you have on the team, the better it is. They want to go the cheat route, get guys that's not gonna cost a lot of money to save money, but you're not even spending. Yeah, you're spending money to pay some of your own players, but you're not spending money where it needs to be to get the quality players that you need. But anyway. So y'all tell me what y'all think about this situation with this illegal tampering, and if this happens, if this was to come about and it does happen, what should new ownership do with Ron Rivera and his front office staff? Let them play out midway through the season, get rid of them at the end of the season, most likely. So I'll put up a poll and y'all can vote on it, and see what happened from there. But until then, continue to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell that anytime I drop a hardcore video, and you will be updated. Until then, guys, hail to the Commanders. I'm out. Peace.